It was a stormy night in the United States. Rain splattered against the windows of a small dorm room where a student named Ali sat hunched over his desk. The yellow lamp cast a dim circle of light, leaving most of the room in shadow. Outside, thunder rolled like a drum in the distance, and the wind rattled the trees. Ali was far from home, far from his family, and the loneliness often weighed on him. Tonight, however, the silence felt heavier than usual. The rain's steady rhythm made the room feel almost alive, as though something was waiting just outside the glass. He glanced at the clock on the wall. The hands showed 12:05 a.m. Suddenly, his phone vibrated on the desk. The sharp sound made him jump. He reached out, frowning at the glowing screen. It showed just two chilling words: unknown caller. For a few seconds, he considered ignoring it. Midnight calls rarely brought good news. But his curiosity got the better of him. He swiped and lifted the phone to his ear. A voice spoke. It was deep, distorted, almost mechanical. Every word seemed to echo, carrying weight beyond sound. "Tomorrow morning," the voice said slowly, "at exactly 8:15, you will have an accident. If you do not change your path, you will not survive." Ali's heart froze. His throat tightened, and he whispered, Who are you?" But before he could get an answer, the line went dead. The silence that followed felt even louder than the voice. Ali stared at his phone in disbelief. He tried calling back, but the number didn't exist. His fingers shook as he put the phone down. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone from campus was playing with him. Yet there was something about that voice. It didn't sound human. He lay in bed, but sleep never came. Each time he closed his eyes, the words echoed louder. "At exactly 8:15, you will have an accident." His pulse thumped in his ears. Shadows shifted on the ceiling. Every creak of the building sounded like footsteps approaching. He tossed and turned, but rest refused to come. By the time dawn broke, his body was exhausted, but his mind was wide awake. The morning accident. The storm had passed. The sun shone brightly, and students moved across the campus, laughing and chatting as though nothing had happened. Ali tried to convince himself it was just a prank. He packed his bag and left his dorm. As he walked, he checked his watch. 8:05. His chest tightened. Just 10 minutes left. He forced a laugh at himself. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. But the unease wouldn't go away. He reached the road he usually crossed to get to class. His feet hesitated at the corner. The warning replayed in his head: "Change your path." He inhaled deeply. "It's nothing," he whispered. "Just a joke." At 8:14, he stepped forward. But something inside him screamed, pulling him back. At the last second, he turned into another street instead. The next moment, a deafening screech of brakes shattered the air. A truck thundered past, colliding with a car at the exact intersection he had been about to cross. Metal tore. Glass shattered. People screamed. The crash happened at 8:15 sharp. Ali's body turned cold. His knees went weak. He leaned against a wall, trembling. The call had been real. Whoever, or whatever, was behind it had just saved his life. The second call. The rest of the day blurred. In class, the professor spoke, but Ali heard nothing. His mind spun in circles. Who had called him? How did they know the future? And why him? That night, back in his dorm, the memory haunted him. He kept glancing at his phone, dreading another call. Hours passed. Midnight came. The phone rang. Unknown caller. Ali froze, staring at the glowing screen. His hand trembled as he picked it up. The same voice spoke, steady and heavy. "Your life was saved today, but now, You have stepped onto a path from which there is no return. Allie's voice cracked. Who are you? Why are you doing this? The reply was calm. I am you. I am your future. And then the line went dead again. Allie dropped the phone, his breath ragged. His future. How was that possible? Was this some broken version of himself, calling back through time? Or was it something darker, pretending to be him? Days of fear. The following days turned into torture. Allie lived in constant fear of the midnight call. He stopped sleeping properly, afraid of closing his eyes. His friends noticed he was pale, distracted, but when they asked, he shook his head. How could he tell them? They would laugh, or worse, think he had lost his mind. But things grew worse. Sometimes, walking across campus, he felt a presence behind him. When he turned, no one was there. Sometimes, at night, he looked out of his window and thought he saw a shadow under the streetlight. A tall figure, standing still, staring upward. One night, as he sat with his head in his hands, the phone rang again. The voice whispered this time, almost gentle, but more terrifying than ever. Each time you escape, the cost grows heavier. Every choice has a price. Allie begged, please, what do you want from me? The voice answered, I don't want anything. I only warn you. Because I am you, I know where you're heading. The line clicked off. The library. Trying to calm himself, Allie forced a change. He spent his evenings in the library, surrounded by people, hoping safety in numbers would silence the calls. For a few hours, it worked. The warm lights, the quiet murmur of students, the smell of books, all of it gave him a fragile peace. But peace never lasts. Late one evening, after the library closed, Allie walked back to his dorm. The campus was almost empty, silent except for the rustle of leaves. He wrapped his jacket tighter as the wind picked up. Then he saw it. Across the street, under a flickering lamp, stood a figure. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just stood, staring. Allie froze. His chest clenched. The figure looked disturbingly familiar. Same height, same posture, almost like looking in a mirror. He turned and ran, heart hammering. By the time he reached his dorm, sweat poured down his face. He slammed the door shut and locked it. His phone was already ringing. Unknown caller. With trembling fingers, he answered. You saw me, the voice said. Now you understand. You survived because I took your place. You live because I stand in the shadows. But shadows cannot wait forever. Allie's breath caught. What are you? He screamed. The voice only laughed softly, and then the line went dead. The final night. The following nights were worse. Allie barely slept. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown. The shadow appeared more often, closer each time. Sometimes outside his window, sometimes across the street, always watching. By now, Allie had stopped attending classes. His world shrank to the walls of his room, his eyes glued to the phone that rang every midnight. On the final night, the call came again. You cannot run anymore, the voice said. Look outside. It is time to face me. Allie's body refused, but his head turned toward the window. And there it was. The shadow stood inches away, its face pressed against the glass. His face. The same eyes, the same build, but older, darker, hollow. The reflection of a man broken by choices not yet made. The phone slipped from Allie's hand and crashed to the floor. The ringing continued, louder, louder, until it felt like the whole room was vibrating. The figure outside didn't move. It just stared, waiting. The screen went black. Silence filled the room. Allie sat frozen. knowing deep down that the calls would never stop. Because sometimes, surviving death doesn't mean escaping fate. It only means trading it for something far worse.